We can keep them going for 100 years, working just as well as the day they were built, just by doing sufficiently comprehensive preventative maintenance every so often.
Right now, inside the bodies of people who live past 100, something extraordinary is happening at the cellular level. Scientists spent decades trying to figure out what it was. They studied thousands of centenarians across 5 continents, different countries, different cultures, different genetics, different diets. And when they finally compared all the data, they found something that stunned even the researchers themselves. It wasn't a drug. It wasn't a surgery. It wasn't a genetic advantage. You'd think it was diet. That's everyone's first guess. Mine, too, honestly. But it wasn't. It was 7 specific daily habits, quietly working inside their bodies like a biological shield against aging, disease, and cellular breakdown. Here's what's alarming. Most people over 60 are unknowingly doing the exact opposite of these habits every single day, and accelerating their biological aging without any idea it's happening. In fact, one of these habits, the one backed by a Nobel Prize winning discovery, is so simple that 99% of people completely overlook it. And missing it may be costing you decades of healthy life. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what these centenarians do differently, starting with a habit that has nothing to do with food, exercise, or genetics. And once you see it, you'll never look at your daily routine the same way again. Here's something 99% of people get completely wrong about exercise and longevity. Most people believe the path to a longer life runs through a gym, treadmills, weight machines, scheduled workout sessions. The science tells a completely different story. Dan Buettner, National Geographic researcher and founder of the Blue Zones Project, spent 15 years embedded inside the 5 populations on Earth where people routinely live past 100. His findings were published in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine in 2016, based on observations of over 1,000 elderly individuals across 5 countries. What he found shocked the fitness world. Not one of these populations had a gym culture. Not one of them exercised in the way we understand the word. Instead, they walked to the market. They worked in their gardens. They climbed stairs. They moved naturally, every 20 minutes, without ever thinking of it as exercise. Think about that for a second. They weren't adding movement to their day. Movement was their day. There's a difference, and it's a big one. Buettner's data showed that this pattern of constant low-intensity natural movement was more powerfully linked to longevity than any structured gym routine. The people living the longest aren't forcing their bodies to perform. They're simply never letting their bodies stop moving. And if movement is this misunderstood, wait until you hear what these centenarians are actually eating. Because it goes against almost everything modern nutrition is telling you. Here's what 99% of people following today's most popular diets don't know about what the world's longest-lived people actually eat. Forget keto. Forget carnivore. Forget protein shakes and calorie counters. The people who live to 100 aren't following any of these trends. And the science behind what they actually eat is extraordinary. Dr. Ramon Estruch, professor of medicine at the University of Barcelona and lead researcher at the Hospital Clinic of Barcelona, conducted one of the largest and most rigorous nutrition studies in history. The PREDIMED study ran from 2003 to 2011, tracked over 7,000 participants, and its results were published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2013. One of the most prestigious medical journals on the planet. His findings stopped me when I first read it. A traditional Mediterranean diet, vegetables, legumes, olive oil, fish, almost no processed food. reduced the risk of major cardiovascular events by approximately 30%. 30%. Not from a pill, not from a procedure, from a plate. The plates of the world's oldest people share one common pattern. Mostly plants, very little processing, and meals that look almost exactly the same as they did 50 years ago. But here's what almost no one is talking about, and what may be the single most surprising finding in all of longevity research. The next habit has nothing to do with food or movement, and it predicts your health at 80 more accurately than your cholesterol levels. There is a silent health crisis that doctors almost never screen for, and 99% of people have no idea it's slowly shortening their lives. It's not high blood pressure, it's not high cholesterol, it's not even inactivity, it's loneliness. And medically speaking, it may be more dangerous than smoking. Dr. Robert Waldinger, professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and director of the Harvard Study of Adult Development, oversees the longest-running scientific study of adult life ever conducted. Since 1938, this study has followed over 700 people across their entire lifetimes, tracking everything from blood work and brain scans to relationship quality and daily habits. 85 years. Let that land for a moment. Some of the people they started tracking in 1938. Their grandchildren are now part of the study. Waldinger's conclusion, after all that data, is one of the most powerful findings in the history of medicine. The quality of your relationships at age 50 predicts your physical health at age 80 more accurately than your cholesterol levels. Not your diet, not your exercise routine, your relationships. The people who live the longest are deeply connected to family, to friends, to community, and the people who are isolated. The data shows they age faster, get sicker sooner, and die younger, regardless of what they eat or how much they exercise. And if relationships can do this, imagine what having a daily sense of purpose does to your biology. The next habit has been practiced in Okinawa for 2,500 years, and Western science is only now beginning to understand why it works. In the place with more people over 100 than anywhere else on Earth, there is no word for retirement, and 99% of people have never heard why until now. In Okinawa, Japan, one of the world's most studied longevity hotspots, elders wake up every morning with a concept called Ikigai. It translates roughly as the reason you get up in the morning, your purpose, your reason for being. I know, that sounds philosophical, maybe even a little vague. But the science behind it is anything but vague. Dr. Makoto Suzuki, emeritus professor at Ryukyu University, has been conducting in-home visits with Okinawan centenarians since 1976, with backing from Japan's Ministry of Health. Over nearly 5 decades, he has personally studied over 1,000 elderly Okinawans, making this one of the most comprehensive longevity investigations ever conducted on a single population. His finding: Ikigai was the single most consistent psychological trait shared by every centenarian he studied. Not diet, not exercise, purpose. In the Okinawan language, there is no direct word for retirement, because the concept of stopping your purpose simply didn't exist in their culture. Dr. Suzuki's data shows that elders who maintained a strong sense of Ikigai had dramatically lower rates of dementia, depression, and physical decline compared to those who lost their sense of purpose after leaving work. Having a reason to wake up. Turns out, that's a biological act of survival. But even purpose cannot protect you from what the next Nobel Prize-winning scientist discovered happening silently inside your cells right now. Most people have absolutely no idea this is occurring. A Nobel Prize-winning discovery revealed something terrifying. Stress isn't just something you feel. It's something that physically rewrites your DNA. And most people have no idea it's happening inside their bodies right now. Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, winner of the 2009 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, and Dr. Elissa Epel, both at the University of California, San Francisco, published a landmark study in PNAS in 2004 that permanently changed how science understands human aging. They discovered that chronic stress directly damages telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of your chromosomes that function as your cell's biological aging clock. The shorter your telomeres, the faster your cells age. The faster your cells age, the faster your entire body follows. Their research showed that people experiencing chronic psychological stress had telomere damage equivalent to 9 to 17 years of accelerated biological aging. Read that again. Not months, years. 9 to 17 years. Just from chronic stress. I remember the first time I read that number. I had to put the paper down. Chronic stress doesn't just feel like aging. At the cellular level, according to a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, it literally is aging. The centenarians studied across blue zones all shared daily stress release rituals: prayer, meditation, walking, napping, simple, consistent practices that broke the stress cycle before it could reach their cells. Now here's something that surprises almost everyone. The next predictor of longevity has nothing to do with your heart or your brain. It's something most people stop paying attention to after their 40s. And ignoring it may be one of the most dangerous things you can do. 99% of people focus on cardio for longevity. But a cutting-edge discovery using the most precise biological aging tool available reveals that something else entirely determines how fast your body actually ages. As we get older, we naturally lose muscle mass, a process called sarcopenia. Most people shrug and accept this. Just part of getting older, right? That's what I used to think too. The science disagrees. Strongly. Dr. Mark Peterson, Associate Professor in the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at the University of Michigan, published research in 2022 using DNA methylation clocks, the most precise biological age measurement tool currently available to science. These clocks don't measure how old you are on paper. They measure how old your cells actually are. His finding was groundbreaking. Muscle weakness directly and measurably accelerates biological aging at the cellular level. This was the first study to prove this link using DNA-based age measurement. Plain English, losing muscle doesn't just make you weaker. It makes your cells older, faster. The centenarians studied in blue zones weren't bodybuilders, but they were consistently active with their hands, their gardens, their daily physical tasks, preserving functional muscle strength well into their 90s and beyond. Strength isn't vanity. According to the most precise aging science available, it is your biological age. And the final habit, number 7, is the oldest of all. It's a practice Okinawan elders have repeated before every single meal for 2,500 years. And the mortality data behind it is almost impossible to believe. Before every meal, Okinawan elders say 4 words. And those 4 words, according to 5 decades of scientific data, may be the most powerful anti-aging practice ever documented in human history. 99% of people have never heard of it. In Okinawa, before sitting down to eat, elders quietly recite Hara Hachi Bu, a 2,500-year-old Confucian teaching that means eat until you are 80% full, not satisfied, not stuffed, 80% full. 4 words. That's the whole practice. No app, no calorie counter, no complicated meal plan. Just stop a little before you think you should. every single day. Dr. Makoto Suzuki's Okinawa centenarian study, drawing on nearly 50 years of field research, compared populations who consistently practiced Hara Hachi Bu against Western populations with similar access to food and health care. The results were extraordinary. Okinawans who practiced this ritual daily had 3 to 4 times lower cardiovascular disease mortality than their Western counterparts, along with significantly lower inflammation markers, lower BMI, and dramatically reduced rates of age-related disease. This wasn't a diet. There were no rules about what to eat, no forbidden foods, no calorie counting, just 4 words: every meal, for a lifetime. Dr. Suzuki's conclusion: the cumulative effect of eating slightly less every single day for an entire lifetime produces biological outcomes that no short-term diet has ever replicated. Small portions, practiced daily, for a lifetime. That is not a diet. That is medicine. Here's what 5 decades of longevity science across 5 continents actually shows us. Living past 100, and doing it with a sharp mind, a strong body, and genuine joy, has almost nothing to do with expensive supplements, extreme diets, or complicated biohacks. The answer, when you actually look at the data, is almost frustratingly simple. 7 habits, ordinary ones, practiced every day, for decades. Move naturally throughout your day. Eat mostly plants. Invest in your relationships. Wake up with a purpose. Protect your mind from chronic stress. Keep your muscles strong. And stop eating before you're completely full. The people who live the longest don't wake up thinking about longevity. They're not tracking their macros or optimizing their sleep cycles. They're just living fully, with people they love, with a reason to get up in the morning. Maybe that's the real lesson here. Now, I want to ask you something directly. Which of these 7 habits is already part of your life? And more importantly, which one do you want to start today? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this changed the way you think about aging, share it with someone you love, because this information doesn't just add years to a life. It adds life to those years.